Holland was handed a gift last week as his rival got involved in a wreck in the very first corner at Monza. That meant an easy victory for the multi-time champion. But there were more than just implications for the Drivers' Championship because of this. That same incident collected a good chunk of Rust Racing Iron's team members, leaving that fight uncomfortably tight. Laguna Seca could wind up being a decisive moment in this story as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the PRL Formula 3 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This California track cut its teeth on sports cars, but one could argue it became much more famous for its open wheel history. Let's learn a little bit more about Laguna Seca and what makes it so special. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2¼ miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. You see a few of the sights around Laguna Seca, and Nick, I know this place is one of my favorites. It seems like it's a fan favorite, but it also seems like it splits drivers. On some love it and some don't.
Well, it's fantastic to watch racing here. It's a great venue in person as well here, just east of Monterey, California, just south of San Jose off the coast. Just a beautiful venue here. Laguna Seca literally means withered lagoon. You can see in the background just what I mean by that. It's a pretty small track, 2.2 miles, just over 3.5 kilometers, and 11 turns. There's quite a bit of elevation change. The elevation change, you know, it really affects the tight nature of this track. This track is, you mentioned how it splits drivers, and even last week in post-race interviews, we were asking a couple drivers what they thought of Laguna Seca, and they were like, well, we just don't know how to get around there, how to pass there. Qualifying, like we'll see in a second here, it's going to be so critical for these drivers because track position is so critical. There out of the corner of the screen, you just saw the Andretti hairpin as well. That might be one of those best passing opportunities. That's turn number 1 and 2, right at the beginning of the lap. But then you've got the famous corkscrew you've got to get through later up and down the mountain. You've also got the rainy curve, just all different sorts of places where you can get struck out. And this is going to be a track that, like you said, it splits drivers, but it splits them for a reason. This has certainly split a lot of real-world drivers as well.
It's a challenge. It will test you. But let's talk about our sponsor as well. Are you ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. This broadcast is also brought to you by ButtKicker. Today's broadcast with ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Let's take a look at the championship point situation with David Holland taking a victory and Greg Seitz having a miserable day. That has jumped up to 16 points between them. Now, Seitz was saved somewhat by the drop round, which he was allowed to use for that race, but now that means he really can't have much of a bad race from here on out. And of course, the final round, he's not allowed to use that. Sam Hermer and David Serrois tied for third place, and then followed by David McDonald, who's a little ways back there in fourth or fifth, really. And it should be a fun one to watch to see how those three settle out the rest of those top five. Now, I talked about that team's championship, Nick. What has that done with that bad result for the Rust Iron guys?
Well, attrition was the name of the game last week at Monza, and it certainly caught Greg Seitz out by surprise. But with that being said, Sam Hermer also involved from Rust Racing Iron, and Vantage Azuro, just because of the drop weeks, hasn't been able to close in too much here. They're down by 27 points, and with 2 rounds left, and like you said, both of those teams have really pretty much used their drop weeks. They both have a good number of drop points up on the board as well. They have to be flawless in these final 2 rounds, and Laguna Seca, like you said, it challenges, and this is going to be a great challenge for those 2 teams to go head-to-head today.
Now, let's hope that we don't have a result like the last 2 rounds where each team kind of had their bad day, unfortunately. Today's day shouldn't be a bad day. Let's take a look at the race details, because as we said, this is a fun one to watch here, round 9 at Laguna Seca. It's a 45-minute race, and the cars have open setups, so the drivers can tweak them to their liking. And you have the stop-and-go penalty at 11 incidents and a disqualification at 20. Not easy to rack up those incidents without some damage around here, so not sure that we'll run into that too much. They have those bonus points available as well, and those have been important all season long. They're currently trying to vie for one of those bonus points, which is the pole position in the qualifying. Before we talk about that, we just want to remind you that we are watching this on IESN. Make sure and subscribe to the channel here on the iRacing Esports Network. Very easy to do so by just clicking the big red button that says subscribe. Greg Seitz right now has that provisional pole, and by quite a big margin for such a short lap time around here. It's almost half a second. Looking to see where exactly Holland is, and he is struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, he's out on track. He's making quite a few laps. He's on his 5th timed lap right now. We've seen Holland struggle before in qualifying, but nothing like this. This would be his worst start of the season, and it would be a big one. Because I mentioned how big track position is around here. Holland said last week that this is a track that really fits his driving style too. Very surprised to see him struggling down here. 7/10 off the pace, 7/10 off the pole, back in 7th place.
That one's not an improvement. It looks like it was actually an out lap for him as Holland comes around. So hopefully this one can be a little bit quicker. Right now, it is actually Sam Hermer who is in second. And as soon as I went to him, he spun out on his way down the corkscrew. That, I think, is possibly going to be an important turn during this race, because I've called a number of races here, Nick, and it seems like anytime somebody falls victim to a cut course penalty there, it plays a major role in how the results wind up.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the couple of turns that come right after. It's a really critical left, right, left that a lot of drivers get caught out on, because you're still going downhill through rainy curve, and it's the last place on track that you really want to have a slow down penalty. And the fact that so many drivers struggle with the corkscrew, I think, it just goes to show that how competitive these drivers are. And it's not only is this a challenging track, but it's one that really tests your courage and your patience. I think the corkscrew is going to be a perfect example of putting those two to the test today.
So we watch Raymond Day, not an improvement that time. We did see Rod Clenard up into second briefly before David Holland responds, and he is within 0.2 of Greg Seitz. He's still got a ways to go, but that is a good sign for fans of Holland that he is still in this. So we now see Don Lee. He manages to get into 8th with that 15 flat. This is David McDonald now on screen.
These times, Joe, are very close together. We have the top 7, top 8 all separated by less than a second. Top 9 actually now all separated by less than a second. So You would think that with a track with so many different corners and turns and challenges that it throws to these drivers, they might be caught out by that. But no, everyone here in the PRL has come to play today.
Sam Hermer with an improvement and up to pole. Sam Hermer is our fastest driver now with 4 minutes left on the clock. Seitz is actually coming to the line now. He might be on an outlap though. Does look like it's a little slow for him, so he's going to get the car going. Raymond Day, who stays in 10th. That's not an improved time for him. Wow, so Seitz and Holland probably raising their eyebrows at that one. Holland's actually only 8 thousandths off of Greg Seitz. He improved once again last lap.
Yeah, how many times this season have we seen Seitz start one spot ahead of Holland, and it hasn't really bugged David too much. He's usually been able to respond, but those have been mostly at tracks that have a lot of draft and slipstream. It's been the name of the game a lot recently. I don't think we're going to see too much of that today.
Yeah, it's worth noting. I'm glad you brought that up. That Seitz has 5 bonus points for poles, with 5 to his tally, and then 3 for David Holland. So you're right about Holland usually not being as strong in the qualifying, but more points are given away on a Sunday. Well, not a Sunday for us, a Thursday, I guess. As I just watched David Holland. He actually ran into his teammate Raymond Day into the corkscrew. He might be done with qualifying unless he can get back out quickly and get his tires up to temperature. Seitz across the line. Looks like he had an off track that time through. We've got another couple tries here.
Another interesting fact I just looked up to fact check myself is that no one besides Holland and Seitz have gotten the pole this season. This would be Hermer's first pole. It'd be anyone else's first pole. And with him tied with Serrois in the points, that would actually put him in front before the race even began.
Exactly. Great job by Hermer. Now the question is, can he hold on to it? Because he has ended his qualifying. He is back in pit lane. Don't think he's really got enough time to come back out. We're watching McDonald still in 6th. His 14.7 is about 6/10 off of the pole position. Let's see what this one holds for him. As he comes to the timing line, well, it holds nothing because he had an off track somewhere, so that one is not going to count. Speaking of Serrois and Hermer, Serrois crossed the line, but he was about a 10th off of his quickest. Greenfoos down and through. A 15.1, that's actually faster for him, so that'll put him up to 11th. He's had a lot of failed laps. I'm looking at his time, his laps rather, and there's a lot of dashes in there with no numbers in it. We watch Verity now come around a little bit down the order, unfortunately. Last driver with a time. And he is going to improve a 15.3. That's going to put him in 14th. Believe we should only see 18 starters. I know we see David Hebert on there, but looks like Mother Nature does not want him racing today because he's lost power due to a lightning storm.
You mentioned all of the incident points that these drivers are racking up in qualifying. You mentioned as well earlier that we're not going to see too many incident points being racked up without a great deal of damage. I am seeing a lot of drivers be very aggressive through the corkscrew. They're picking up either off tracks or slowdowns or a mixture of both through there. And as well, turn 11. There's a little green strip of AstroTurf. That's just about the only green you'll see around this track. And if you track just a little bit too far out on that, iRacing will also give you a 1X. That's a lot of tracks will let you go out there. Laguna Seca will not.
Seitz not able to improve. He stays in 2nd place, it looks like. Holland has definitely given up on his qualifying. He is in pit lane, so 3rd will be the best we'll see out of him. See Serrois still out there, working hard. This is Verity that we see coming to the line. Is he going to be the last one to actually start a new lap? Nope, looks like Rosenbaum also will be able to just sneak through, as well as Christopher Richards. It's going to be tight for Tyler Gorey. Just got by. Now the checkered flag comes out. And I think it is indeed going to be David Serrois, who's just coming around turn 10, that banked right-hander, and he's going to abandon it. He's not happy with it. Practices his pit entry, just behind him. Mitchell Ian Green, who has managed to put it up to 8th so far, gets one last shot. Let's see if that 14.9 can come down. Yes, it does by 0.2, a 14.7. But he does not improve his position with it, sadly. Very few drivers still out qualifying. Verity going to be the next one, although that was a little sloppy down through the corkscrew. Don't think he got an off track with that, but certainly is not going to be fast. Into the final hairpin, he's got a 15.5 as his best time, and he pulls over, knowing he can't improve. Rosenbaum abandons his final lap, so that leaves Christopher Richards as the final one. Number 49 sits in 15th with a 16 flat, and it's going to stay there. That's the last of our qualifying. Time to go through the starting order here for round 9. Sam Hermer, the first other driver besides Seitz and Holland to take the pole, will be starting right next to Greg Seitz, the qualifying master so far this season. David Holland will be behind them. Maybe that third place will actually be a good place for him, as he will be able to look to the inside of Seitz down into turn 1. Then it is David Serrois starting 4th, followed by Rod Clenard in 5th position. Outside of row 3, it's David McDonald. Daniel Kranefuss starts 7th. Then it's Mitchell Green in 8th position. Alex Guyon starting 9th, and Don Lee rounding out the top 10.
Behind Don Lee, if Raymond Day wants to keep up and match his 4th place finish last week at Monza, he's going to have to work hard and gain 7 spots after he starts back in 11th place alongside Olivier Legault in the 88 car. Sheldon Rosenbaum and Stephen Verity will make up row number 7, with the top 15 being rounded out by Christopher Richards. Owen McLaughlin will follow, starting alongside in row number 8, with Tyler Gore and Matthew Gunderson behind them. David Hebert in the session today, but like you said, Mother Nature, I think, not going to allow him. He's seems to be under the weather, I guess you could say. At least the technology is. He's going to be starting at least on the grid back in 19th.
The weather here is pretty ideal, at least in the virtual world, because it's a cool 73 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. This is actually pretty cool for California, I have to imagine, especially with this being set in May. Not too much wind either, so drivers have possibly the best of what they could ask for out here at Laguna Seca to race for round 9. Just a few more drivers to find their way out onto the grid. Then we go racing today for the penultimate round. You can see it is a pretty steep uphill climb off the starting line, over the crest, and then heavy braking down into that first turn. It can sometimes cause drivers to get tangled up with one another as they make dives looking for position early on in the laps. At this point, Hebert is the last one with sights out there, so they should be getting going very soon. Indeed, I hear the engine start to rev as the lights come up. Green flag is out. Can Seitz get a good one off the line this time? He isn't always that great. He is looking a little under threat and covers off Holland immediately. He's boxed in. Holland breaks early, and that's going to allow McDonald around the outside, potentially getting that third place away. No, he falls back to 4th. Excuse me, that was Rod Clenard. No, Serrois, who was looking for it. The rest of them cycle in as they all get single file now through turns 3 and 4.
Looks all clean back through the field. They get that double file down into the single file through that the double apex of Andretti. They're starting to make their way up the hill. Yeah, I'd keep an eye on second place. David Holland looking very hungry to get second place around Greg Seitz.
Hermer still your leader with Seitz in 2nd, Holland in 3rd, and Serrois 4th. McDonald back in P5. You have to go back to 6th before you get a little bit of a gap in there. They're all tightly packed, and we got a battle for 7th. Kranefuss went side by side with Green into the corkscrew. That is brave on lap 1.
We have first off track as well. Alex Guyon lost it to the right of the Ray Hall straightaway, and so he is going to lose a couple of positions. He's going to fall all the way down to 14th after starting up in 9th.
Hermer continued to lead lap 1. As everybody comes across the line, looks like the closest battles between McDonald and Clenard. This is going to be for 5th place. And, ooh, getting shoved a little bit out into the grass, or the sand rather. Rod Clenard ran out of road. McDonald getting aggressive, but he's going to give him the inside down into turn 3. Oh, and he loses it in front of him. They come together as the field starts to come through. McDonald is slow, trying to get in the way of Kranefoos. Kranefoos can't take the spot, but Clenard is off course.
And there you see Rod Clenard in bad shape. Rear wing fell completely off once he shifted that momentum of the car and got it back in gear. Take another look at this again. Yeah, it just looked like cold tires, Joe. Caught him out on this cold track surface and just lost it and trying to get around McDonald.
This was going to be an easy pass for him, but oh wow, it started to come around almost as soon as he turned in. Horrible day there for Clenard. They have no spare car. Oh, we had a car with a cut course through the corkscrew. That's going to be Don Lee. He's going to lose a lot of positions here. Looks like
up the field too.
Yeah, Clenard may have had a second incident. Not sure we'll get a replay of that one, so he might already be done for the day. McDonald loses out to Kranefoos finally. He might have some damage since he clattered into the side of Rod. Take a look at that car. Ooh, a little bit wide around Andretti. So that's going to give the inside to Kranefoos. Not seeing much in the way of damage, if any, on the front wing of McDonald, so maybe he's okay.
Yeah, I didn't see too much contact. I mean, they definitely touched, but might have hit him right in the exact perfect spot to get away with just minimal damage, as I said.
Yeah, it could have been a small enough nudge that he got away with it. Meanwhile, our leaders are staying just about the same distance away from one another. It's Hermer, Seitz, and Holland as your top three. If Hermer can pull this off, by the way, it's not just pole positions, Nick. Nobody else has won a race yet this season except Holland and Seitz.
Yeah, this is huge for that battle in third place in the points. It's a tie, like I said, between David Serrois and Sam Hermer. Well, I guess Hermer's up by one now that after he got the pole. You know, drivers that aren't in contention for the championship, certainly they'd like to get up on the podium. And remember, Sam Hermer, Rust Racing Iron teammates with Greg Seitz. Rust Racing Iron could have two of the top three on that podium.
Don't need to go to it, but Raymond Day had a self-spin in the final corner. He winds up in 17th. Rod Clenard made it back to the pits just now. He's going to get damage repaired. We'll see whether or not he decides it's worth returning to the track. Looking through for our battles, one of the best we've got is for 6. That's between Mitchell Green and David McDonald. I think Green recently got by him, actually, since McDonald was sandwiched between Green and Kranefoos just moments ago.
Yeah, that was quite a while ago. It was actually in turn 1, I believe. Maybe the little bit of slipstream that you get on this track, able to slingshot. We'll have to see if that is a recurring theme in this race. Oh, and Mitchell Ian Green's going to touch the curb in front there. As you see, he's going to go wide. What a save from Mitchell Ian Green in the number 27.
Keeps the car from being damaged, but he's going to be overtaken by McDonald. Now he's under threat as we go and take a glance at the replay here. Boy, this happened fast.
Gets to the corkscrew cleanly. You're going to have a curve right here to the inside. That red little turtle. Oh, man.
Good reactions, though. Very smooth reactions, too, I have to admit, from that onboard. So we come back. I said he was under threat. It's Legault chasing him, but Olivier has Don Lee back there. Remember, Lee a little bit out of place with the cut course that he had. He settled into 9th. Very much a threat to that 88.
Yeah, they've been going at it this whole race. Don Lee, a little bit of a shaky start, but both of these drivers able to move up big time. Olivier Legault especially, he's already up 4 spots here into 8th. Trying to fend off this train of cars behind him.
So far, so good. This time down the hill. Nobody clipping that inside curb. It's coming to one of the last places to pass on the lap here into the final hairpin. Legault's not going to be under attack as Don Lee decides to stay behind him for the time being. starting to split off into pairs here as it looks like McDonald and Green are pulling away, while Legault and Lee are together. Christopher Richards in the meantime, I think in the final corner. Well, this is bizarre. He comes to a halt and he gets run into. Oh, it looks like he half spun, we'll see. And poor Matthew Gunderson comes upon the wreck at just the wrong time. There's the loss of control.
Oh, nowhere to go.
Everybody else had a miraculous escape around the outside, just squeaking by.
Yeah, that car didn't get hit, jolted to the left there. That could have been a 5-car pileup within a blink of an eye. Oh, man. Comes at the expense of Matthew Gunderson's car, though.
Yeah, so that's 2 more drivers now in pit lane. Clenard did return to the track. He's still in 18th. I think he's going to get this spot away from those 2 just wrecked. We're going to watch this battle now for second place, though. David Holland knows he can't afford to start losing points now to Greg Seitz, and if he stays where he is, he will. It's down to 0.3 of a second between them. As we look over his shoulder, that gearbox is mighty close.
Yeah, the last thing he wants to do late in this season and early in this race is get too comfortable where he's at. He's got to keep going for it, and I think he certainly is. Just, the Rust Racing Iron guys seem to be on point today. They've got a front row lockout so far.
Turn 6 and up the Ray Hall straight. Holland not looking as good in this portion. Seitz had mentioned, or I think actually one of his teammates had mentioned that Holland tends to be strong at tracks like this that are windy and twisty. And we had another incident. This one was Sheldon Rosenbaum. This was turn 6. Took its first victim for the day.
He was in a battle with Stephen Verity for 10th place, and I was a little bit surprised. I expected turn 6 to be some action with that curb. No, he actually was right in the middle of the track, lost it all by himself again. These drivers really struggling for grip, as you see lots of damage to that 113 car.
Hope he doesn't have a motion rig, because that would have been a severe jolt into that tire barrier. And watch the Texas driver's perspective. Another case of the incident happening so lightning quick. Just snaps on him.
That's some whiplash there.
I have noticed that it seems like they've added some more tethers to these tires since the last update or so, because they don't seem to bounce around and off into the way of the other drivers as much. Looking back at the top 3 once again, who have all tires firmly on the car still. Hermer leads Seitz, leads Holland. Holland dropping off a little bit now. Ooh, in fact, battle may now be for first instead, as Greg got a fantastic run off the final turn. Hermer doesn't defend. He's going to let him look to the inside. Seitz is going to have to come from a long ways back, and he actually sticks it in. He manages to get through. Can Hermer cut it off before Holland gets by? He does.
Holland had a big slide there. Had to check up, and now Holland's going to look to get to the inside here. Might be a little bit defensive from Hermer. There's going to be a lot of hesitation between the 2 drivers. It's like a game of chess. They've got to be careful. Holland doesn't know which way to go. He's going to have the preferred line, but does he have the momentum? He certainly has the courage. He's going to get it done.
On my tinfoil hat here, was that intentional from Hermer, letting Seitz by and then trying to hold up Holland, maybe? I wonder.
Might have seen some Rust Racing Iron team orders, but it didn't work out. Holland's just too quick for that.
Yeah, and boy, it was aggressive defense from Sam. It just didn't quite work out. Holland now passed him. Granted, we could see Hermer try and attack back, get the spot away from him, and see if he could sandwich himself between the 2 rivals. But he's slow off the final turn, so it's certainly not going to happen here.
Yeah, now we're already seeing Seitz pull away here. This is a gap that's already up to about over a second through a couple of different corners. Holland's going to have to hustle here. He's been able to relax a little bit back in third place so far. Now that he's fighting for a win, he's got to get up there and contend with that number 74 of Greg Seitz.
Just a theory to go with that tinfoil hat thing I've got going. Wonder if maybe Seitz felt like he was being held up in the wake of Hermer, and that's why we're seeing him suddenly have quite a bit of speed. That it wasn't that he was slower than Holland, it was just that he couldn't really race to his full potential, and maybe that's why they tried to swap. We don't know if it was intentional or not yet. We'll try and get answers afterwards, but certainly was curious that all positions have changed for the top three within a lap, but now they're back stuck to where they were again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing I thought of, to be honest. I mean, how many times do we see that in real world racing, especially Formula One? Drivers with the two teams or two drivers on a team. I mean, just, if one driver feels like they're getting held up, and especially when Seitz is racing for a championship, he might be allowed to get through on some teamwork, some creative, some crafty teamwork. I just hope that that's not a Ferrari strategy they've just pulled.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, in mid-pack, as we take a look at Stephen Verity, he's at the back of a four-car train. That's Legault, Green, and McDonald in front of him. If one of these four makes a mistake, this could get pretty feisty quick.
Looks like Olivier Legault had a really deep run into turn number 1 there, and Mitchell Ian Green was a little bit caught out by that, but they keep their positions for now. I don't know. We've seen all of these drivers move up and down through the field, especially, I mentioned already earlier, Olivier Legault, who's moved up 4 spots. He could be having 5 or 6 spots here. Look at how deep he is there on the brakes as well. I think that's another driver that's being held up here. I think he's got the pace to get around Mitchell Ian Green, just doesn't have the room on the track.
Depends on what setup he's got in the car as well. Maybe he's not quick in a straight line. Maybe that car just has the downforce to brake that late. As they come up into the corkscrew, and a mistake here from McDonald's. I think he recovered from it at least well enough, but he was deep into that diving turn. So Mitchell Ian Green probably watching on, spying that and making some mental notes.
So hard to get a pass done there. We'll see the difference in downforce here on the front stretch. And yeah, I think you're right. I think Olivier Legault looks a lot faster through these tight and twisty bits than he is on the straight line. But look at this up front. David McDonald having to go around to the outside. Mitchell Ian Green to the inside. He's going to get that pass done as they stack that. That's going to stack them up behind him.
Legault missed his opportunity potentially. Those two fighting side by side could have opened the door, but it's not meant to be. Put Green up to 6th. After starting from 8th place, a 2-position gain. A little look to the inside that time as we rode on board him. Looking, Olivier Legault thought about it, and once again, getting in the mirrors of McDonald.
Yeah, Mitchell Ian Green has flown away from that pack of now 3 cars. Let's see, Olivier Legault looking around David McDonald. He's not going to be able to get it done through the corkscrew. McDonald cleaned, though, through the corkscrew this time. Head back downhill through Rainey. And soon to be on the front straightaway. If Legault can get a big run, maybe he'll have enough draft to pull him.
Sun comes out once again here at Laguna Seca after a small spate of cloud cover. McDonald can get the launch off the turns. That should do it, as long as Legault doesn't get the draft quite like this. Here we go. Looking to the inside, just enough of a hole left open by McDonald. But look at both of them good on the brakes here into Andretti. McDonald still can't quite make it work the long way around, so Legault now up into 7th. McDonald continuing to struggle. Oh, as he blocks off on Verity. No, he pulls over for Verity.
That's interesting. He's continuing to lose positions. Alex Guyon looking to get one around him. I'm starting to see a little bit maybe on the right front. I'm just curious as to why that seems to have just now affected him.
Well, I think it affected him before. It's just, it must be very, very subtle here.
Yeah.
Oh, see, almost got into the back of Guyon. Now he's got one front and one in back, because that's Don Lee in there as well, as we're watching the battle in front of them. Here we see these 4 now. Yeah, McDonald continues to just drop and drop. But the thing is, I would think if he has damage, he's got to come into the pits early. And if he doesn't come in this time, he's making a mistake. Yeah, he's staying out.
Well, if you take a very close look at that front wing, he's got that right front wing just bunched up just a tiny little bit. So yeah, I can definitely see why it would affect him in some turns and not others. You can see how it's, I mean, look at that, especially on the straight line speed. It's incredible how just a tiny little wrinkle in the sheet metal there will hurt you that badly.
Lee not able to complete the pass. It's going to stack him up with Raymond Day just behind. I think McDonald, the reason I suspect not that it's damaged, not just because of him looking slow in a few places, but he seems to be letting by specifically teammates. Everybody else, he kind of makes them work for it.
Certainly don't blame him. Not a track, if you're going to have any kind of aero damage at a track, you're going to want it at a place like Laguna Seca because it's so hard to get around you.
Doing a good job here, rebuffing Don Lee. Raymond Day just behind. Again, if it was me, though, I feel like I would, if I'm off pace, come in and pit as soon as that window opens, and I'm pretty sure the window should be open by now.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe he just feels like since he's only really let teammates go by, I know he's let a couple other drivers by as well, or at least other drivers have been able to get around him. Maybe he feels like he just hasn't lost that much, but it looks like, I mean, look at this. It looks like Don Lee might be able to get around the outside of turn 2 and 3. That's a bold move. It's definitely telling of something in that car. Don Lee might actually lose 11th place now to Raymond Day.
He's going to cover off the inside. Day looking for the crossover. Not quite going to work, though. So they swing it now through turn 4. And already falling off the back. Day suffering from the wake of the car ahead. So that'll back him up. That could have been a chance gone right there. McDonald is loving it since he is able to pull away a little bit, get himself some breathing room. Meanwhile, let's go up to the lead, because not only have they started to drop Sam Hermer, but Holland is starting to get a little bit closer to sights.
He's getting pretty bold on the brakes, if I do have to say myself. He had a big charge into turn number 1, or I guess turn number 2, in the Andretti hairpin, and he seems to be maybe a little bit slower on a straight line. Maybe Sights has the car trimmed out just a tick more, but as they come up the hill and soon to be down the corkscrew here, we'll see just the difference maybe in setup. Yeah, look at that, just how much Holland's able to reel him in.
Worth noting, if I'm seeing correctly, I think David Holland has the fastest lap currently. So that's a bonus point for him. And since Sights did not get a bonus for pole, that will eat into his lead if he finishes ahead of David Holland in this race. I believe it's about 3 points difference from first to second place. He needs all he can get coming into that final round.
Yeah, any kind of insurance for Holland would be so helpful heading into Silverstone.
Had to change for position in 11th as Day got by Lee finally. Not sure if we got a replay on that one, but that happened. Actually, you know what? This might be worth a replay. I'm just looking at it now. This started into turn 6 where Lee made an attempt into there, which is always risky. There it is right there. That slows him down. And Day, watching this, very smart, backs it up, launches off the corner, and look at that. Has them before they get to the corkscrew. No change since that replay. Day still in 11th, Lee in 12th, and McDonald somehow holding them both back.
Yeah, it's going to help him if they keep battling back there.
Ooh, Holland is in.
Priorities are going to shift. Oh, interesting. Wow.
Holland is in early. This is highly unusual for him. He must be trying to do some strategy games here. He probably is also struggling in the wake of Greg Seitz. So maybe he's seeing if he could leapfrog him. He pulls into his stall cleanly. Let's see how long of a stop it'll be. Will he take tires as well? Car's not going up on the jacks. Looks like this is just going to be fuel. Oh, it's a long one, though.
It is long. Wow.
Uh-oh. Oh, he must have gotten some sort of damage over a curb. Oh, no. This is turning horrible for Holland. This is an incredibly long stop. Unless he sped in the pit lane, all I can think is that he got some sort of damage. David McDonald finally in as well. Holland is still in there. Did he? I'm going to check to see if he sped in pit lane.
Oh, you know what? I think he did, Joe. He had a big jump up in speed about halfway down the pit lane. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he just hit the limiter or something.
He did. Yeah,
that
you're
is
right.
Bizarre. I looked straight at pit entry, of course, but something happened midway down pit lane. That is really bizarre.
Holland is finally back out and going. As Seitz comes around, he's actually gone a lap down with that pit stop. Now he'll get it back when the others come in, but that is crushing. Hermer now pits from third. So he should have his done. Be able to go to the end. This is a huge boon to Greg Seitz. The implications on the championship are immense.
I will say, if this result stands and Holland's not able to make it back to the podium, which, I mean, it's not looking pretty right now, this will be the round that gets dropped for him. The drop round he has right now is round 7, Phillip Island, where he finished 3rd place. That's so far his worst finish of the season.
Wow.
You can drop every round except the finale next week at Silverstone. Thank God this happened this week and not next week.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's at least grateful for that. Not sure, how did he must have just accidentally slipped his finger on the wrong button or something. That's just incredibly strange halfway up the pit lane.
He had to.
So Hermer returns to the track. He's actually in 4th, so he only lost 1 place from that pit stop. Holland is actually right now running in 13th. A loss of about a minute 23 cone to cone for him. Trying to do the math and figure out where that would put him in the field once everybody else pits. This has actually separated quite a few of our battles that we've had, because we've lost Lee and Day. Those two have fallen apart from one another ever since Raymond managed to get by the number 71. At this point, we're just waiting for everybody to take scheduled stops. Wonder if Hermer pitted just to try and make sure, again, team tactics, cover off Holland. Well, he didn't need to, but they wouldn't necessarily know that.
Yeah, just unbelievable. Not quite sure what that's going to do in terms of points. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to hurt Holland too much, because I mean, I think he's going to be able to live with a 3rd place being on his record. But certainly, he's going to get his money's worth out of that drop week. Wait until the last possible week to use it.
Serwa, who is just behind Holland on track, but looking to lap him. Still cycling around now in 2nd. Started this race in 4th, was looking pretty good in qualifying. Looks like Daniel Cranefoos now going to take his pit stop. He's joined as well by Rod Clenard with his 2nd stop of the day, unfortunately.
I'm a bit surprised at how early we're seeing everyone come in, it seems. We saw, a bit of strategy early on for people like David Holland, but you've got other drivers who are a little bit more traditional in their ways, like we've seen all season, like Greg Seitz staying out there. We go to Seca, really not a thirsty track. I think people are just getting tired of driving in the wake of other people, and they're saying that this is the best way to pass at this track.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. So as we continue to ride on board with David, he's got a few seconds up to Holland. I don't think he's going to be able to lap him before the pit stops, because we've got another 3 minutes left probably until that window closes.
Seitz has just come in as well.
Let's see if he's able to make a clean one. Looks like Serwa also pitting. Hermer should pick back up into second place here unless we get major dramas for Greg Seitz. Did take tires. Serwa. Oh, did he stall coming out of his pit stall here? What is going on? There he goes.
Wow.
Interesting. Well, that'll put Hermer well clear of him, so he will not be under threat. Serwa comes out just ahead of Kranefoos, who cycles into 6th, but we're still waiting on Green and Verity to take their pit stops. A few more drivers in. Legault, Guyon. Looks like Raymond Day now looking for his pit stall. So 3 drivers left that need to take pit stops. What has this done for McDonald? He's going to get a few more positions back now. I think he'll cycle into 11th at this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to wind up with those 31 points, which, like you said, it's really not the worst thing that he could think of, but obviously this is going to put himself under a little bit more pressure than he maybe would have liked coming into the final round. As Green is going to pit, so is Verity. So Serwa, despite his dramas, Serwa still comes back out in 3rd place. Boy, he lucked out.
Yeah, great job by him to get that done. We had such big gaps throughout the field. That certainly helped him.
Let's see, Verity is done with his pit stop. He's back out and going. McLaughlin still working on his. McLaughlin's the last one to go. He is on his way. Oh, we have a battle brewing for 5th place, though. Green ahead of Legault, ahead of Verity. This just exited pit lane for those two at the front and back of this trio. And you could see poor Legault is a bit sandwiched and under threat right now, but just moments ago, it looked like maybe he could be the one threatening instead on Green.
Yeah, and this pit strategy for Legault worked out nicely. He was a lot further behind Mitchell Ian Green than he is now. I know he's under threat from Stephen Verity now, but he did gain, it looks like, a little bit of ground on track. He's got to set his sights forward, though, not get too caught up with Verity behind him. Verity, though, he'd love to jump both of these drivers.
Legault's got a suspicious pit strategy. I'm looking at his time. He is tied for the quickest pit stop here at 5 seconds. Does he have enough fuel? Because that is,
you're right.
That is very fast. So I don't know about this. Well, he might have to actually sit behind that number 27 and ride in his slipstream for a while if he is tight. See if he can save a bit of it.
Oh, he had a big slide there, too. We just saw a great save through turn number 2. And Verity, I'm surprised he wasn't able to take away an opportunity there. Now that's Verity's going to be slow at the exit of that turn as well.
For fans of David Holland, he has returned in 11th, just ahead of Owen McLaughlin.
That is a big hit.
He's got 8 seconds to make up to Don Lee. That might be doable depending on the pace difference between those two. But that is a tall order with 14 minutes left on the clock. So we continue to follow Legault ahead of Verity. But it looks like he's got those tires up to temperature now, because he's pulling away. Up at the front, Hermer's regained some of the time that he lost trying to chase Seitz earlier in this race. Now, I'd be amazed if they let him win over Greg Seitz, considering the point situation right now.
I was about to say, we've been speculating team orders for the past 30 minutes, and I don't know if... I mean, I would the race fan inside me would love to see Hermer take a shot at this. The fan of Rust Racing Iron in this team's championship and Greg Seitz to try to claw back in this Drivers' Championship fight with David Holland's issues today. Man, that'd be tough for him.
Continues to follow. He drops back a little bit over the course of this lap. Seitz much quicker as a 14.9 at time by compared to the 15.1 for Sam Hermer. So not sure that there's really too much real drama there between these two, though there's been some of this blinking that we're seeing for Greg Seitz for a good deal of this race. Here's hoping that modem holds up. Oh, we got a side-by-side between Verity and Legault now, down in 6th place. Legault having to go defensive and not quite going to work down into turn 10. What about 11? Does Verity decide to stick his nose out? No, he's going to wait for the main straight up to the Andretti hairpin, and it bites back at him because he doesn't get a good launch, and he is too far back from that 88.
These drivers in a points battle of their own. They are only separated by 1 point for 10th place. Verity on top of things over there. Each of them would love a spot in the top 10 here in the championship points, and battles all throughout the field, especially in the mid-pack. It's coming down to this.
So as the Canadian leads ahead of the New Yorker, he's got himself a little bit of comfort, some buffer back to that number 4 machine as they come through the middle of the course, up the hill and into turn 6.
A little bit of a battle brewing behind them as well. Alex Guyon for 8th place. He's really under threat right now from David McDonald, who, remember, he's trying to make his way back up through this field.
And that car looks a little faster now, because, wow, he is pressurizing the number 808. In fact, last lap, to give you an idea, he was a full second faster than Guyon.
Well, I think he was able to get that damage repaired. I don't see any crinkle on the front right of the wing anymore. So yeah, you're definitely right. If he had come in earlier, he could have had this pace throughout the, even more time.
It's been an 11-second stop for David. So yeah, that would to me imply he maybe took a spare wing.
Oh,
He's going to look to the inside. Alex not going to fight that very hard, and he lets David through into 8th.
And up in front, Olivier Legault off track. That's going to allow Stephen Verity to get by.
Easily by. This is in turn 3. You're going to see Legault in the red and white machine just go wide.
Guess who followed Legault off track? David McDonald. He just gave that spot back up in the same spot.
Poor David. Certainly his own worst enemy today. So that pushes him back down into 11th. So it...
Mistake from Guyon. Side by side through the rainy. That's a tough place to do that. McDonald's going to make it work. He's going to force Guyon off the throttle.
All right, so now he's got to keep it. That did not force him to 8th. That forced him to 9th, excuse me. He's back up into P8 now. As they come onto the main straight. This is actually causing Clenard and Don Lee to close in. Now, Clenard... Oh, no, Clenard is on the same lap. I thought he was going to be a lap down after him taking an extra stop. So he's done well to get back into the game here. Out of turn 3. Everybody going to stay on the track this time at least, so they've all learned their lesson.
That tunnel vision is killer.
Let's stay with this, but an update. The lead still hovering at about 9/10 of a second. Both Seitz and Hermer are well ahead of David Serrois. 14 to 15 seconds from P2 to P3.
Yeah, with a cushion like that back to Serrois, no need for Sam Hermer. As much as he would love to get a win this season in the PRL F3 series, not needed right now for Greg Seitz's fight in the championship.
His train stays relatively close. McDonald, now that he's gotten past Guyon, is stretching away. In fact, he's already set his sights on Legault, it looks like. Legault's lost one spot recently to Verity. Could lose another, because it's about 1.8 seconds from him back to McDonald. not impossible to close in a couple laps. Lead taking a lot of trail braking down into Andretti hairpin, though. Watch from Lee's perspective. See those cars up ahead of him. He's actually right back to where he started this race, qualified in 10th. And did he cut the course?
I think so.
Where did he do that? Because that... Oh, and he spins it. Took an awkward line into turn 6. Put those wheels out into the dirt on the outside, and it's not going to stay straight.
And that car just snapped on him. I've seen a couple of cars run wide, but that was crazy.
Wonder if he bottomed out or something.
I think he might have, yeah, because I'm seeing him right up on the... There's kind of a... Looks like a drainage ditch over there, a drainage vent. I think his tires got down in when his car got bottomed out on the curb.
He's going to be ruining that one. Taking a look at Greg Seitz, 7 minutes to go. Hopefully the nerves aren't getting to him. He's won before. He's got 2 of them this season. He's looking up to rack number 3. And as he puts a lap down on Owen McLaughlin. Also, I see Tyler Gore coming out of pit lane. Not sure what happened there. So Greg Seitz has got an open goal. He's got a compliant teammate from what we can tell just behind him. But he's got to survive for 6 more minutes. So he's got, what about 4 more laps to go here? Oh, Verity! Verity has wrecked in turn 6. The number 4 car has found the tire barrier.
All by himself. We've seen so many drivers get caught out at this corner. Turn number 6, like you said. And the craziest thing is that they've all wrecked in different ways.
I don't know if it's great for the drivers, to be honest. But here, watch this. Another one that looks like the rear comes around. I don't think he touched the outside. A little bit of a hit, but it looks like he avoided the suspension for the most part.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse. You know, I don't know what more he can lose at this point. He's lost his position. He's back in 10th place now. Certainly going to be off the pace a little bit, and he's got a good bit to go to. Actually, David Holland, the next driver in front of him. Don't think he's going to be catching him anytime soon.
I think Holland got that spot away from that wreck. Guyon must have gotten by as well. Meanwhile, up in 2nd place, Hermer still hovering dutifully at about 0.7 of a second. Back behind Greg Seitz. They are continuing to pull away from Serrois. It's now 15.5 seconds to the number 19. Looking to check and see what the stats are. This will be the 5th top 5 finish for Hermer. So that'll be a good day in that sense. Not sure how many podiums he's racked up, though. Down through the carousel, or excuse me, the corkscrew rather, one more time for these two. The sun setting here in Laguna Seca. Beautiful California sunset. Out to the coast. We come through with just under 5 minutes left to go. Closing in now, though. It's down 0.5 of a second. Certainly seems like driver fatigue has been a factor in today's race, because a lot of, I don't want to say silly mistakes, but stuff that I'd expect a little better out of the quality of some of these drivers.
Well, and we know how fast these drivers are. We saw them, I mean, top 8 or 9 all within a second of each other in qualifying. We know they've got the pace. I think late in this season, at a track like this where all these drivers are getting caught in the wake, it's got to be so frustrating lap after lap after lap. You can't get around the only driver you're battling with. And, you know, like you said, silly mistakes just start to creep into their minds. And silly mistakes have been made on track. You know, some races have been thrown away. We saw, I mean, David Holland from 2nd place looking for the win. He's back in 9th now, which is a great recovery despite his mistake, and other drivers like Stephen Verity, who fell back into 10th.
Speaking of recovery, Holland just got another spot. This one from Alex Guyon, and he's up to 8th now. This was down into turn 1 if we want to replay this. Let's take a look.
He was over 10 seconds back last time we checked from anyone else.
I think Guyon maybe had a mistake in there.
I think he might have.
And Holland's not waiting around. He's taking everything he can.
I think Holland would have found a way to catch him one way or another.
And honestly, I guess Guyon probably didn't want to fight too hard, because if you think about it, like you said, the drop week for Holland guarantees he's going to get 31 points. So at this point, he might as well take some risks. He can't do worse right now. So,
yeah, unless we've got a some kind of 5-car pile up in front of him. I don't think he's going to gain anything from this race, except, like I said, he's getting his money worth out of that drop week, waiting until the very last possible week to use it.
And up next for him is Legault. I think he's going to get up to 7th now. Woe betide any driver who is in front of David Holland. Man with nothing to lose. Putting some pressure on this red and white number 88. We're down to 11 cars left on the lead lap of our 18 starters. Actually, did we get 9 starters? Because Abe Berg actually made it out here. I don't know. Did we mention that?
No, he didn't. He joined this race late. He's 16 laps down. Awesome to see him come back. Wow, great job.
An ultimate Dory award there. Getting in here very, very late, because we're on lap 34. He missed half the race, essentially. Credit to David.
He's weathered the storm.
Nice one. There we see it. Give him a little bit of screen time for his effort getting back out here. Tip my hat to you, sir.
I just wonder if his sim rig
right there.
I wonder if his sim rig has any superpowers now after his house got struck by lightning. I mean, his internet seems to be all right, so I wonder if he's got some turbo in that car now.
Well, there you go. That's our new venture, a sim racing comic book. Meanwhile, white flag going to be coming out. The sun is very low in the sky now for our drivers with less than a minute left. Sights a scant 5/10 ahead of Sam Hermer, just playing rear gunner for his teammate. This is looking like a handy 1-2. They may have eased up a little bit because David Serrois has now cut it down to 14.5 seconds. Too little too late there. Holland has gotten by Legault, and up next for him is David McDonald, about a 1.5 seconds up, unless he has an absolutely incredible final lap. I'm not sure he'll be able to catch McDonald.
Yeah, it'd be a tall order.
Much from the teammate of Sights here on Sam Hermer. Just ahead, has to stay clean. That's it for the remainder of this race, and Sights will take most of the points he could grab. Couldn't quite get the pole. His teammate kind of stole that one away from him today. Wonder if that will be a bit of an awkward conversation if it comes down to 1 point at the end of the season. But Greg Sights, as he approaches the final corner, is indeed gonna take the victory here today at Laguna Seca, closing that championship back in for the finale next week. Serrois just coming around the final corner now is going to round out your podium. Top of the field, just distanced themselves from everybody.
Might have a little battle between Stephen Verity and Don Lee. This is back in 10th place. Verity out front. And they've got quite a bit of a lap left to do this. They barely stayed on the lead lap. They're still fighting for this spot.
Yeah, I think the last one's on the lead lap, so they get the whole thing to themselves. I can tell you that as we watch this, David Holland was pushing hard, but is just coming up shy. He's a little too far back from McDonald. It's about a 0.5 second back there as we go side by side into the corkscrew. Lee trying it around the outside. Oh! I don't know if he lost it or if there was contact, but the result It is that Lee is turned around.
No contact between him. Don Lee trying to pull the Zanardi through the corkscrew, and he's going to get hung up on the curb. And valiant effort. He's not going to lose any track position. I don't blame him for trying.
Verity is going to come home in 10th. So we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. That was an interesting one. Very unusual. We'll try to dissect that. We'll come back with the drivers' interviews and the unofficial results, but watch on screen for all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Laguna Seca. It was the penultimate round here of the PRL F3 series, but Greg Seitz took his third win here today and closed things in. Drop weeks will come into play to keep the championship from getting as tight as he would like, but still, it was the best he could do. Sam Hermer took the pole and stole that bonus point away from his teammate, unfortunately, but dutifully stayed behind in second, despite seeming to have pace at the end. David Serrois rounded out the podium. He stalled it in pit lane and still managed to somehow grab the champagne today. Daniel Kranefoos with a nice fourth from seventh on the grid, and Mitchell Green finishing fifth. David McDonald's, with his problems, wound up coming back to sixth, just ahead of David Holland, who we believe got a speeding penalty from what we could tell in pit lane, costing him a ton of time in finishing seventh. Olivier Legault was eighth with Alex Guyon in ninth, and then Stephen Verity wound up in 10th.
After that, Joe, there's plenty of drivers on the grid, but they're all a lap down. We did see that great battle between a couple of drivers at the end, but we've got some drivers to talk to, and you've caught up with our winner.
Absolutely. Greg Seitz, who won again today, number 3. Greg, we're going to go right for the big guns on the questions. Was that team orders that allowed you through?
There's a little bit of coordination there.
Well,
pull it off very coordinated.
Well, I don't know if Sam told you, but he tried his darndest to keep Holland behind him once he let you through. It just unfortunately didn't work out quite like he had hoped. Even still, you guys got a little bit lucky. He will have his drop points to save him today, but he had some problems. So this will allow you to close in. Do your hopes rise with this third win?
I think so. Finally the luck went my way, so that's always good. Yeah, I don't know what happened to David, but I mean, he might. I know Sam said he ran into him when he was trying to make a pass a little bit. So I don't know if that caused damage to David or he just got picked up some damage off the track. But I guess that was unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see things go my way and always kind of keep hope alive here.
Now, the next round, though, is going to be at Silverstone, and this track didn't offer up as much of a chance to slipstream by. That one will, with a few very long straights. Does that concern you?
Well, not really. I mean, I think it kind of works both ways. So, I think we're so close in pace that as long as we both get kind of similar luck and we're both in the race, I think it could make for a very good race.
I agree on that point. We're looking forward to that one. Again, congratulations on another victory. Anybody you'd like to thank before we take off here?
You guys again for broadcasting, and Sam, of course, for really helping me out in that one. Like I said, we could have fought, but it was it didn't make a lot of sense for us to fight, and he did a great job supporting me in that one.
Absolutely, and certainly helped today. That was Greg Seitz, our winner. And behind him, Sam Hermer home in second. Nick's going to get the other end of the story of those team orders.
Yeah, the Rust Racing Iron front row lockout. You guys have done it again. Sam, you got the pole, so congratulations on becoming the, I guess you could say, the best of the rest after Greg and David Holland. But, great job getting the pole. But looked like after you let Sights through, you were trying to stay in front of Holland. Was that the plan?
Well, sort of that plan. I mean, it was pretty obvious they were going to get me anyway. I mean, I'm not going to say that qualifying was a complete fluke, but I wasn't really expecting to be in pole. I think the other two maybe just mucked it up slightly. But yeah, obviously I knew they were going to get past, and Greg was going to come past first. So, it's fairly obvious, really. Although David was obviously very, very desperate to get past me because he actually hit my back wing. So yeah, there was like some contact between us.
Wow, not sure if we caught that actually on the broadcast. We saw you racing, like we said with Greg throughout the entire race. Obviously, not going to push him too hard. He's fighting for a championship. We asked him about that, but I'm more interested. You're actually also in a little bit of a championship fight. You and David Sirois are fighting for third place in the championship. That's switched back in your favor now. How much are you focused on that fight for third place in the Drivers' Championship, and how much are you focused on the Team's Championship?
Well, hopefully the Team's Championship is, well, within our grasp now, isn't it, pretty much? I haven't really thought much about the Drivers' Championship, but I mean, I had a terrible race last week, and I didn't even make turn 2, so I don't know. I feel quietly confident. Silverstone is a very strong track for me. I would say actually Laguna Seca is like the weakest track for me ever, but I seem to have done quite well. I don't know how.
Certainly, well, you pulled off an upset for yourself, it sounds like. Fantastic run out there. Coming home in second today. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just obviously thanks to you guys for putting the enthusiasm in, and thanks to my team. We've done some really good teamwork this week, staring at charts, discussing corners and grip zones and all that. So yeah, just thanks to my team.
Absolutely. I'd say it would certainly pay off. Joe, we've got one more driver to talk to. It's the driver on the lowest step of the podium, but nonetheless finishing in the top 3.
Yeah, David Sirois almost not finishing there. David, you got to take a wrench to that clutch after the race here?
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the pit, but I stalled it twice, and I lost a few seconds there. I'm lucky to finish in third place there.
Absolutely. It seemed like I know we certainly were surprised to see you cycle back through. Of course, it was helped a little bit by the issues that David Holland had. Even still, it seems like you've been on a good stint of form here late in the season. Have you been doing anything different, or is this just everything's normal for you and something just seems to click?
No, I think it's just I, I had a few bad luck in the first races in the of the season in the pit, a few penalties and a few repair. But now things are going better and better. The car feels right, and I just think it's just I'm out of bad luck.
Thank goodness for that this late in the season. It seems like you're going to need it though, because now Sam Hermer, we believe, may have jumped you in the points for third in the Drivers' Championship. He said he doesn't pay attention to that as much as the teams. Would you like to be finishing within the top three in the Drivers' Championship, or are you not concerned with that?
Yeah, I would like to finish third place, maybe second and first, but I don't think it's possible. But Samuel Hermer is doing a very good job, and he is very fast. I'm not very confident if I will be able to finish ahead of him. I will need a bad luck on his side, but I think he is faster than me, and anyway, I will be happy with fourth in the championship, considering the bad luck I had earlier in the season.
Well, we wish you the best in a week's time, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again.
Thank you. Bye.
It was David Sawa, third place here today. That's going to close out our interviews. Some good ones, some interesting stuff we found out in that one. We're going to thank a few people before we go, starting with our sponsors, of course, Ninja Trader. And if you want to find them, you can check them out at ninjatrader.com. And also The Butt Kicker. They are at thebuttkicker.com if you want all kinds of cool stuff for your sim rig to add to the realism there. Thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN once again. And thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you can see listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lawn, provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, on Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading over across the pond to Silverstone. That'll be Thursday, May 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be the finale for this season. So that'll be important. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But if you tune in just a couple minutes, we'll be back with the Lionheart Retro Series at Pocono. So until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.